If you're into your cars, the chances are you know all about the Honda NSX. The NSX marked Honda's entry into the supercar market, and while European manufacturers focused on dramatic styling, big power and evocative soundtracks, the NSX was all about precision and drivability. Honda wanted it to be fast around racetracks but usable daily, and when you look at the likes of Audi and McLaren, that's a pretty popular formula these days. Honda of course had the added advantage of having the one and only Ayrton Senna as a technical consultant. And it was Senna who famously told Honda's engineers, "I'm not sure I can really give you appropriate advice on a mass-produced car, but I feel it's a little fragile." What the three-time F1 world champion meant was that a road car is always going to be full of compromise. But while the motoring world still went crazy for the car, behind closed doors, Honda's engineers were cooking up something altogether more hardcore: the NSX Type R. Now, I just can't stress enough how important and how significant this car was for Honda. The NA1 NSX Type R, or NSX R as it's affectionately become known as, was Honda's first Type R model. So if it wasn't for this car, we may not have ever seen the DC2 Integra Type R, the EK9 Civic Type R, and all of the other Type Rs that followed. This car in 1992 was a pivotal moment for Honda. So how did Honda transform the NSX so dramatically? Well, under this meshed hatch, it's still a 3-litre VTEC equipped V6, but each block was balanced and blueprinted at the factory, and that included the crankshaft assembly as well. After that, it's all about weight reduction. The heavy steel door bars and bumper bars have been replaced with aluminium items, and then things get really serious when you take a look inside. The interior is dominated by these stunning red carbon Kevlar Recaro seats, a simple Momo wheel and a titanium gear knob. But delve a little deeper and you'll discover that the carpets are thinner, there's no sound deadening. Even the glass between you and the engine is thinner. And even though this car has got the optional stereo fitted, they didn't come as standard. Honda also scrapped the spare wheel, the airbags, the central locking, the boot release mechanism, as well as the cruise control and traction control systems. Even the armrest, the toolkit and the battery are all smaller and therefore lighter. In total, Honda shed 120 kilos out of the Type R. Now let me tell you, you really notice the difference out here on the road. Everything feels so much more urgent, so much more intense. Now I love the stock NSX, I love it. I never get into an NSX and think, oh, I wish this had more power, or oh, I wish this handled better. But when you drive this car, you really start to notice the compromises that Honda had to make. The compromises that Senna himself implied that Honda would have to make on a road car. For starters, that slightly woolly, vague steering that NSXs suffer with has completely gone. This car changes direction really, really nicely. Now obviously the weight saving really helps, and there's no power steering in this car either. But remember, Senna said the NSX was too soft, and because of that, Honda fitted harder bushes, firmer dampers, stiffer springs, and the results really speak for themselves. It's a really interesting blend, because although the ride is quite firm, the actual damping still feels quite supple. So when you lean on it in a corner, you do still get an amount of body roll, but you can definitely attack corners much harder than in a stock NSX. But you do still get that impression that if you just pushed it a bit too far, it'd probably bite you. The brakes feel a bit beefier as well, but I think that's primarily down to the fact they've got 120 kilos less weight to slow down. But it's when you drop it down a gear and get your foot to the floor, the NSX R really comes to life. It's incredible, it's so much faster than a stock car. The NA1 NSX Type R then is a feat of engineering. It's stunning and has one of the best cabins I've ever sat in. But as well as being a precision supercar for the road, it also has a magical personality. It's hard to put your finger on why exactly, but it's truly addictive. You bond with this car instantly. Is it the best production road car Honda has built? Possibly not. The NA2 NSX R is the Holy Grail of Hondas. It's the car that every Honda enthusiast dreams of owning. Import specialist Torque GT has sourced 2 examples from Japan in the last 12 months. One now resides in Sweden, while this car is now owned by Minutia Detailing in Surrey. It's special. Very special. The second generation NSX R was released in 2002, 10 years after the first version. Supercar technology and performance had obviously come a long way. So was the NSX R now completely out of its depth? Not even close. This thing is so rapid, significantly quicker than the NA1. Being an NA2, it's got a 6-speed close ratio manual gearbox as opposed to the 5-speed that's in the NA1, and the gear ratios feel really nice and close because of it. It does take a bit of getting used to because there's really sharp throttle mapping and a very short clutch pedal mechanism, but when you get it, it's absolutely glorious. This car is obviously equipped with a 3.2 litre V6. A stock NA2 puts out about 300 brake horsepower, and this feels so much faster. The chassis setup feels more advanced as well. It feels a little bit firmer actually than the NA1, but it just corners so much flatter, and that gives you a lot more confidence. I don't really know how they've done it, but I guess that's 10 years of development for you. If I'm honest, I actually prefer the interior of the NA1 because you've got that lovely black Alcantara with the red stitching. In here they've used like a lightweight faux leather kind of material, and it's fine, but it's just not quite the same. It's hard to believe this NSX is 15 years old. It still feels so fresh, so modern. There are so many fast cars out there now, but I've never driven one that feels as complete and as well engineered as this one. An example as clean as this one will set you back about the same price as an all-new NSX. But that's an investment really, as prices are only going to rise. This truly is the car that Ayrton Senna thought was never possible. Sadly, he passed away before the NA2 NSX R was ever released, but there's no doubt in my mind that he would have absolutely loved this machine. You can imagine him sat on board in his white socks and his brown loafers, heeling and towing his way around Suzuka, and at the end of his lap getting out and saying to Honda's engineers, "I'm not sure I can really give you appropriate advice on a mass-produced car, but this one is just about perfect."